one and all, and listen to tales of excitement and adventure. Tales of daring heroes, savage monsters, and bards who just couldn't keep it in their pants. Tales of friendship, nobility, drunken foolishness, and unforgettable fun. These are tales of role-playing games, fair listeners, and this is Rollin' Bones. My name is Ryan Howard, and I shall be your guide. Good evening, Boneheads, and welcome to Rollin' Bones with Ryan Howard, your RPG treasure trove. I am your host and king of the Boneheads, Ryan Howard, and joining us once again, ladies and gentlemen, the great and powerful, the legendary Skeeter Green. Skeeter, welcome back.
That is quite the intro. I hope I can live up to that. That's pretty good. But thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to come back to your show. I don't always get that from everyone. So thank you. And yeah, let's have some fun.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some stuff.
Yes, because as Skeeter's background is showing, right now Skeeter has an ongoing campaign for the Cryptocodex, Critters for Your Apocalyptic Aftermath game. You can find this on Kickstarter. It is currently fully funded with 14 days to go and stretch goals to unlock, so anyone who wants to jump on, you are well within your window right now, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go here.
Yeah.
In fact, that's probably as good a place as any to begin, so
sure.
Skeeter, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Cryptocodex, what it is, and what it can do for people's games?
Absolutely. So Cryptocodex is, at its most basic, monster book for the Dungeon Crawl Classic and Mutant Crawl Classic game systems. They are all the same monsters, dual statted for your more typical fantasy setting, if you want to use them for that, but also the same monster has stats if you want to do a post-apocalyptic, nightmarish, traveling the wasteland game of your choice. A lot of the monsters fit both genres, so I figured why not give you stats for both instead of doing the classic, oh yeah, I'm going to release one book for DCC and another book for MCC, which is probably a more savvy marketing method, but that is definitely not me. So I decided to combine them into one book, and we are currently at 50 selections in that. So the baseline book gets you 50 monsters statted for both. And from the feedback that I've gotten, they're relatively crazy ideas. Not the crazy ideas like they're unusable for most people's games, but they're just like, what is wrong with you? How did you come up with this creature? A lot of things that are hybrids. Like I have 6 or 8 different things that are combined with elephants. So
nice.
Yeah. This all came from, I released Crypt of the Science Wizard 2 years ago for 5th edition in Swords and Wizardry. Then last year I did another Kickstarter for the same Crypt of the Science Wizard to be in DCC and MCC rules. So as I'm writing Crypt level 2, I needed more crazy, semi-mutated, monsters to fill that. So I started putting these together, and I'm like, why don't I release these as their own book? I mean, some of these are pretty darn good ideas. So that set off an entire book. And then I started getting into writing that a little bit more and started getting the juices flowing, and stuff was pouring out of my head. And I have somewhere between 2 dozen uh, possibilities for stretch goals, which if those don't go in this book, they're going to go into a later book next year. So lots of product coming out from SGP. Hopefully people don't get sick of me, but I'm
Absolutely.
churning it out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And there's been kind of a lot of movement when it comes to kind of the Dungeon Crawl Classics kind of thing, because I know, you're putting this out for DCC, and then I also know that Levi Combs is doing one of his adventures, Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride, for DCC as well. That's coming up pretty soon too.
Right. Yeah. We talked at length about that, and that conversation actually got started because when he wrote An Occurrence at Howling Crater, I asked him, I was like, okay, so you're doing this for MCC, is this, The Hills Have Eyes, Hillbilly Mutants? I mean, that screams DCC and MCC. And he was like, oh, yeah, I thought about it, but I didn't do it. And I'm like, dude, what are you even doing with your life? Come on. So I kind of browbeat him a little bit, and he decided to go for it. And what I've noticed when people uh, start embracing DCC and MCC is it actually opens up some creative avenues for you. Because typically, when in my experience, when I was heavy into swords and wizardry, it's generally the standard, Tolkien party of fantasy characters going out and doing stuff. And I am from the way beginning. I mean, stuff like Tomb of Horrors and Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, where stuff was weird and you could actually have a published module and go, oh, I don't know what that is. I missed that. And now that I've been writing this, harebrained stuff for SGP, I love it again. I am rejuvenated and running these in virtual cons because, disease, we're actually having our own post-apocalyptic life. But it's increased the fun again, which is really nice. I super enjoy it and getting a lot of good feedback too. So yeah, I like it and I want more people to do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make about kind of the earliest role playing games. Something that a lot of people don't realize just because of how influential Tolkien has been on fantasy as a whole. D&D does not really come from the Tolkien tradition of fantasy. It comes from, and I people are going to start like hitting me over the head with things if I keep bringing him up, but it comes from Robert E. Howard. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from, and the weirdness that
You
you find
dirty
with
heretic, you. No, and I wasn't trying to cut you off, but that was actually um, an interview I was listening to today where people were talking about that. And they were like, the books that Gary and Dave and everybody at the beginning were reading and basing this off of, it was, Conan.
yeah.
You read a Conan story. I mean, dude is not hanging out in, chainmail and, hanging out with his little halfling buddies. Guy was a pirate, and he would go to these weird temples where, evil priests were summoning these things that had no shape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
you know, and with the and I hate to even use it, but with the heavy Lovecraftian influence from those kind of stories, you're only a short jump to, okay, so these things came from space. Let's throw some spaceships in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as much of a leap to go from barbarian on horseback to oh, we found this crashed UFO. What kind of crazy stuff is in there? I mean, that's something you would investigate.
Yeah.
If you had the nerve to do that. I'm still trying to get over the fact that, this is a fantasy world with 3-foot diameter spiders, which would make me peace out. I'm done. That's it.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just for anyone who has not read any Conan stories, any Robert E. Howard, but you are into D&D, if you read The Tower of the Elephant,
oh yeah. Nope.
one of the most famous Conan stories, just that one story, you will understand the
Classic.
genesis of the dungeon.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to take another tangent and you want to maybe crack open some John Carter of Mars,
Mm-hmm.
that has everything. It has your fantasy. It tells you where the white apes come from. It has a guy who is basically, I don't know what John Carter would be, maybe a ranger, since he had that kind of skill set. But yeah, he's using technology and all of this stuff, but it's done. The story is told in a very fantasy setting where it's not like you think, oh, he's going to break out a laptop and like, take over the world or anything like that. It's not that flavor, but it definitely has that mix that opens you up to more possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's again, this is why people are going to start hitting me with things every time I bring up Robert E. Howard, because when it happens, I then go into the explanation for anyone who hasn't heard it of how I'm related to Robert E. Howard.
Oh, I did not even know that, or I would have brought it up even earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I just found out a few months ago. You see a guy with the last name of Howard, and you think, okay, I'm a Howard too. Am I related to him? Statistically, probably not. But
Right.
I did the like ancestry.com thing, and he is I believe he is my first cousin 5 times removed or something like that. He's way way down the family tree. But
But that's a pretty cool tree.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you're gonna have a tree, have Robert E. Howard in your tree.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and finding that out, I love fantasy, I love D&D, but finding out something like that it's in my blood, quite literally, that really just kind of made the passion go off inside of me. That's really living with that for the past few months has been incredible, and that's why I keep bringing it up to everyone who's like, "Oh, it's talking about
Yeah.
this shit again." That's
Oh
why.
man, I would 100% do that.
Hmm. I even reached out to the Robert E. Howard Society, and I was like, "Hey, I'm a Howard," and they're like, "We've heard from a couple Howards. You're the most distant one we've heard from, but we're glad that you're interested." So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, because I was
That's
afraid no one in my just knowing my dad's side of the family, my immediate family, none of them cared really.
yeah.
It wasn't something that I was told. I had to go uncover it. So I was like, what if no one's paying attention to the fact that we have one of the big names of fantasy? He's on the Mount Rushmore of fantasy, if there is one. Uh, he's in the family. What if I'm the only one who cares? And so I reached out. Thankfully, I'm not. There are other more closely related Howards who care about that legacy, and that makes me happy.
So what you're saying is you got a bit of information, researched it, we'll say went on a quest for more knowledge
Yes.
and found this treasure.
Yes.
That's a
Absolutely.
that's a perfect campaign hook right there. That's
Hmm.
exactly what people are looking for.
Yeah. It was fun. I didn't encounter any 3 foot in diameter spiders on
Oh,
this on this quest, but If I had, it would have all been worth it anyway. Although I'd probably be dead
Yeah,
because.
no, man, flamethrower. Just that's one of the things. And when you're writing a monster book, I was specifically looking at other monster books because you kind of want to get some inspiration, but you also don't want to rip anybody off.
Hmm.
So I was trying to get some things that were, clever, and I included creatures that can be beneficial. Like I've got a bunch. The Crypt of the Science Wizard, the setting is largely in the desert or in the jungle. So I've got some creatures that the merchants and traders would use. I have a camelpede in there, so it's something that people would use. It's a steed. There are some horribly overpowered creatures in there that you would not use unless it's the end of the campaign and I want to wipe everybody out. There's a smattering of those in there,
Hmm.
but I tried to focus on utilitarian things that you would actually need in a campaign, and I think it worked out pretty well. But it made me think about that stuff, like monsters that have come before, and 3, 6, 8 foot diameter spiders.
Hmm.
I don't like them if I can see them. So if it's the size of a hood of a car, that would not be a fight I would be involved in
Hmm. Yeah.
unless I had a gun,
Hmm.
like a shotgun.
Hmm. And even then, and this is probably too much nightmare fuel, but you think about like how tough proportionally a like an insect or an arachnid's exoskeleton is to their size. So if you scale them up in that way, would their armor scale up with their size? What I'm getting
Right.
at is, would a spider be bulletproof at that size?
Right, exactly. One of the monsters I have in there is essentially a land octopus that has an exoskeleton. So
Mm-hmm.
it's armored. And in playtests, it has been nasty because yeah, it's got a pretty good armor class because you know how hard crabs are. So if a crab was bigger and it had a little bit thicker exoskeleton, that would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot of the design ideas, or like you were saying, the nightmare fuel that comes with making a monster book is legit.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying.
Now, I don't know if we talked about this at all last time you were on, but how into like Dark Sun have you been traditionally? Is that something that you have
I
liked or experienced?
Yep, I got way into Dark Sun. We had a long running campaign of Dark Sun, and I really there are parts of it that I hated, but the flavor of it, and my setting doesn't get as in depth as that one did, but yeah, I was a fan of the whole blasted landscape. Uh, I remember growing up when I was way too young to watch it. There was a movie called Damnation Alley, and it was this it was like the salt flats except everything was orange, so you knew it was radioactive, and there's like a van driving through this one scene, and then there's a scorpion the size of the van, and that left such an impression on me when I was a kid that I've never forgotten that. I've always figured, if that's the end, that's what's going to happen. Everything's going to be a desert. There's going to be giant bugs that kill us, and that's another reason why I don't like bugs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're going to take over.
Yeah, and the reason I bring up Dark Sun, well, first of all, talking about the octopus with the exoskeleton just got me thinking about how frustrating it is for players with stone weapons to fight a Braxit,
Right,
which
right.
for any. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's like you see that thing. It's like, okay, I have a rock.
Mhm.
And now, nope, we're running.
Yeah.
We're out.
Yeah, for anyone who's unfamiliar, a Braxit is a giant bipedal rhino with armored plates that's immune to damage from non-metal weapons. And metal being scarce in Athos,
Yeah.
yeah, run.
Yeah, you're kind of screwed. And that's one of the things that I'm working on in my playtests for level 2 of Crypt of the Science Wizard is there's more combat in this one. The first level is more about problem solving and getting past obstacles. There wasn't a whole lot of fighting. This one has a lot more fighting in it, and I'm trying to not balance because there are some encounters in there that are wildly not balanced.
Mhm.
But for the ones that I want people to have conflict with, I want to make sure it's entertaining. So when they die, at least they get a good story out of it.
Hmm.
There's there I do have one encounter very early in level 2 where if you just don't bother the creature, it doesn't interact with you. But if you accidentally attack it, it will kill you, as it has killed many parties so far. So
Mhm.
I'm confirmed that one is a TPK waiting to happen. But hey, it's up to you.
Yeah. And that's an interesting puzzle to put into a module like that because, a lot of people when they enter dungeon crawl mode, just because dungeon crawls, it's typically, all right, we're going through and kill anything that moves that's not
Yeah.
one of us. So
Yep.
that really kind of messes with your dungeon crawl instincts there.
Oh yeah, and that's why I did it is to kind of show people you're not SEAL Team 6. You
Hmm.
don't have to clear every room, and sometimes there are going to be things tougher than you. I do not subscribe to the formula of you need to have X amount of encounters in Y amount of time, and it has to drain Z amount of resources. That's not fun.
Hmm.
I mean, it can be fun if it's done well, just like anything. If you're a good game designer, doesn't matter what system you're using, you can make it entertaining. I just want to make things that challenge the players as well as the characters.
Hmm.
Like, don't come at me thinking that oh, I've seen this 100 times. I know exactly what to do. I'm betting you don't, because I'm specifically playing on the fact that you are going to think you know how to outbrain me.
Hmm.
First level of Crypt of the Science Wizard, I put a checkerboard floor in there just because I know that is going to trigger certain players into thinking, okay, we have to move a certain way on this checkerboard floor. It's like, you don't. In my case, you don't. Um, there's stuff like there's a pit trap. Oh yeah, we can open that, no problem. Okay, it's full of water. Well, why is it full of water? Oh, the water's hot. So, in addition to falling into a pit, you fall into boiling water. So, guess what? Get out of there really fast, or you're going to drown screaming because you're
Yeah.
boiling. And all of that came. The inspiration for that was I was watching a food show and they cooked a lobster. I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm putting that in the game.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah, stuff like that, and anything where you can, as a dungeon master or as a game designer, uh, just kind of peel open the players' heads and crawl inside and just kind of sit down and just live in their head for as long as they're trying to figure this thing out is a great moment. It's like when you ask for a perception check, someone rolls like an 18, and
yeah,
with whatever modifier they have, it's outrageous, and you go, you don't see anything, and they're like, what's
right.
out there?
Yeah. It's like, what is hiding really good? Yeah, no, I've done that. One of the things that I'm most proud of with uh, the first level of Crypt is when people figure out how to bypass one of the challenges or obstacles or traps. They really feel like they've accomplished something.
Hmm.
And I mean, the first level of Crypt is an homage to Tomb of Horrors. So, yeah, if you make it through there, you have accomplished some stuff. That's
Absolutely.
that's that's worth it.
Hmm.
And the yeah, second level is shaping up to be very similar. The weekly game group that I have that's been running through it online, they usually can have maybe one or two sessions, and it's like, yep, we're going out. We're leaving. We'll come back. So they know how to bail out and come back, which
Hmm.
is what you would do if dungeon delving was a real thing.
Yeah.
Like they got that show Mystery of Oak Island. Those guys are looking for treasure all the time. They don't find it in the first day. I think it's been like a decade, hasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, just because you don't win the level the first time you sit down, that's not necessarily a knock on you.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's something. I think it's something that just a lot of people forget about because they get in this mode of we're in a dungeon now, so nothing outside of this dungeon exists until we solve it, and then
Right.
that leads to terrible decisions like camping inside the dungeon.
Yeah. And everybody who lives in this dungeon is static until we move. It's like, no, when you're sleeping, that's when they're going to sneak up on you and kill you.
Hmm. Yeah, there are ancient and evil things down here. They know how doorknobs work, so you're
Right.
not.
And 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 I mean, I think I would know if somebody was randomly breaking into my house and walking through my closets and stuff. I would maybe not confront them right off, but I'm gonna get something and confront them at some point. Get out of my house. What are you doing? Yeah, and that's actually a point of consideration for game design is I ran into that on the second level thinking, okay, so these things exist down here. Um, they aren't in like suspended animation until the characters show up. So what is going on when the characters are in this part? What are these guys doing in other parts of the dungeon? And I made it basically so it's like an underground research facility, like for a biotech firm or Resident Evil or something like that. There's stuff moving around the whole time, so it may change the encounter to good or bad.
Mhm.
There's a lot of randomness that's possible and a lot of repercussions to players' actions because I'm big about that. You can do whatever you want, but be prepared to pay for it.
Absolutely, yeah. So getting back to the Cryptocodex here for a little bit,
Yep.
what one thing that I've noticed, and again, one of the reasons why I brought up Dark Sun, there's nothing better than confronting players with something they're super unfamiliar with and something that is kind of scary to describe and foreign to them and does kind of nightmarish things to their characters. That's one of the main reasons why I love going to kind of alternate monster manuals to
Yep.
mess with players, especially when they're more experienced. What kinds of things like that was that a consideration when you put something like this together? Just different ways you can really surprise people with what's coming after them and thinking about this thing that I'm creating coming at me right now. How would that make me feel? Is that a consideration you have?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been playing some version of D&D or Call of Cthulhu or some role-playing game for more than 40 years. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I have read some books that have given me nightmares uh, outside of gaming. So that kind of, I am a horror movie buff. I enjoy that stuff. I think it's great. I enjoy the psychological thrillers. I don't like the slasher flicks just because I think that's a waste of time. But definitely now, after 40 years, I've seen a lot of iterations of monsters. So it's like, okay, that thing's pretty cool. Oh, wow, that thing has a lot of powers. All right, whatever. The mundane things that have additional effects are just what grabs me. Like I have a monster that can attack you. It does damage the first round, but it also injects you with poison. And the poison gives you an adrenaline rush. So you actually attack better when you have this poison coursing through your veins. It's almost like a rage effect.
Hmm.
So you just go berserk and you're like, ah, I'm gonna kill everything. Ah. The side effect of the poison is it numbs your body, so you don't know how much damage you're taking from additional attacks. That gets taken away from you. So you can fight, you feel like you're a tank, but if things go badly, you could just randomly drop dead because you didn't feel your body getting destroyed. And I thought that was really good idea. A buddy of mine came up with that one. Just we were randomly talking about what would be horrifying. So he came up with that, and we got it worked into a monster. And then he actually came up with another one that was a two-dimensional creature, like the paint on a sign or like a glyph or a rune or something that can peel itself off of that surface and cover a player character. So when you attack the monster, part of the damage goes to the monster, part of it goes to the player or the character. Well, player would be awkward. But yeah, it does half damage to the monster, half damage to the character. And if you fail a will save, the glyph creature can take control of your body physically. So it can attack the other parties with, the character. So yeah, like body horror things like that are really great. You have to do it very sparingly because when people lose control of their characters, depending on the player, that can be an issue. So you got to kind of know your players if they're going to be okay with some of these things, and that kind of goes for anything. If your players have certain things that they don't want to deal with, you don't throw a monster that preys on that specifically on them. Like if somebody has really bad arachnophobia, you don't throw the 8-foot spider in the middle of the dungeon to get them or anything like that, or you do, depending on how they would react to it. If they want to be like, I kill it, then, go for it. But if they're like, and go into trauma, then you don't want to do that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what it comes down to is something like that is, understanding everyone at the table's boundaries. It's why it's good to kind of know the people that you're playing with and
Yeah,
to figure stuff like that out because, sometimes people will relish the idea of, I, Stanley Miller, am afraid of spiders, but when I am playing Thorak the Destroyer, he's not, and he will be my outlet to smash this giant spider. But some people just
exactly.
can't let that go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm working my way through John Peterson's book where he's describing different types of dungeon masters and game masters, and the difference between having a adversarial or you know, communal relationship with your players. And honestly, it's changed for me as a game master. It used to be if I went to a convention, I'm like, all right, I got like 16 hours of games. I want to kill 24 characters, in this 16. And now it's much more of I want to have a cooperative game with people where the players get taken just to the edge of what they think they can handle, and then they miraculously act like heroes and jump up and high five when we were all able to touch hands and stuff like that. um, and a lot of that goes into the way I write things now. Is I want to present challenges and make the challenges flexible enough to people that it really a good game master can really push people and be like, okay, well, you haven't done it yet. What, give us some good ideas, come up with some good creative solutions. And it doesn't always work out, because if people just want the dice to give them what their results are, that's fine. You can do that as well. But I want to have the availability to be creative. I mean, this is kind of, combination between stand-up comedy and, improv acting.
Mhm.
That's what we do. If you're a good game master, you got to make it entertaining and engaging. So that's what I'm trying to do with the monster design and the dungeon design, is not necessarily just be, oh yeah, this thing shows up, you're dead, we're done.
Yeah.
That's not fun. But if this thing takes you to the brink where you have one hit point and then you kill it and you feel like a hero, and then the whole party wins the treasure, then everybody digs it. And that's when you get the smiles and the high fives, and they get, man, I want to play this again. I want to buy your book. That is what I'm looking for now, rather than having, a death count.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that kind of speaks to, what produces the most amount of fun over the longest period of time. Because when you think about, your goal being how many players can I kill as a dungeon master, and hearing this is going to completely screw with someone's head. So don't let this go to your head, person out there who's about to hear this. The dungeon master is essentially god of the world that they are presiding over. So as god of the world, you are well within your ability to strike people dead instantaneously, and that's your prerogative. But who is that fun for? Even if your goal is to kill someone, where is the fun in just immediately going, lightning strikes you, you take all the damage. How many hit points do you have? You take that much damage.
Right.
You're that's not fun for anyone. Whereas creating a challenge that can be overcome but takes a lot of resources, a lot of resilience, a lot of brain power to overcome.
Hmm.
That's really where the fun is had by the players, having a challenge that they can conceivably knock down. It's just going to take, the right combination of good rolls and know-how, and you, the dungeon master, creating a situation where you're cooking people's brains. That, again, that's where the fun's had all around.
Yeah, I think sometimes it gets lost in how people play. And obviously, I'm not telling anybody like I know the perfect way to play, but people who play D&D or fantasy role-playing games, they want to at some point feel like a hero. They want to do something super cool. They want to do something that they wouldn't be able to do anytime on the way back from Starbucks. They want to do something amazing. And if you can offer the opportunity for somebody to get, like, if they're in a combat and they are scratched up and bleeding and bruised, and this this beast is coming forward and it's on its last legs, and whoever lands the next shot is walking out of this, as the winner. That's a hero moment.
Hmm.
And it doesn't always go your way. I have on a number of occasions rolled a 1 in that very scenario. So I mean, I feel your pain if you don't pull it off, but that's where it's fun. It's not, when the party is steamrolling through, kobolds because they're 15th or 20th level. You know, it's fun every once in a while just because you're like, oh man, did you see that? But it's the challenge when people get pushed the most and overcome it. That's the biggest reward.
Hmm. Yeah, the moment that for me kind of sums up what everyone's looking for from a game of D&D or any role-playing game that they might be playing is in Saving Private Ryan, the moment
Mm.
where Tom Hanks can't stand up, the tank's rolling towards him, and he lifts his pistol up against the that's the
Yeah,
high that everyone's chasing with role-playing games, and that's if you're able to pull off something like that in whatever system you're running in, that is the game at its best. That is the height of what we are all looking for, what your players are undoubtedly looking for with this particular hobby.
yeah. One of the most poignant, throw that 25-cent word out there. Uh, one of the best moments I saw in role playing was in a Call of Cthulhu game. And we were all kind of playing our characters, and it was just going horrible. We were getting decimated, and one of the players decided, okay, I am going to, I don't remember if it was, I think it was shoot the dynamite that they were holding to create an explosion that was going to kill these deep ones or whatever that was coming after it. But the entire rest of the party was going to be able to live. And the players struggled with this. You think, okay, yeah, it's Call of Cthulhu. Everybody's going to die. So one of us is going to sacrifice themselves and, everybody else is going to get away. But they were super invested in this. And then when they did it, like it was a moment for all the rest of the players. They were like, oh wow, no, you took this way more seriously than we did, and now we all feel bad. It was a real, and then everybody was like, what the hell, these are pieces of paper with stats on them, what are we doing? But sometimes you can get that moment of total investment in what you're doing, and then as a game master, that's like, okay, that's it, I won D&D. I'm done. That's just an amazing story because that's something those people will always tell everybody, even their friends who don't play. And they're like, yeah, you already told me this story. Tell me about your character. They will replay this time. God, it was, all these odds and I blew up everything and I saved the whole party and I'm a hero. It's like, no, you were playing a game, but it's okay. You could be the hero.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah,
So,
that's what I want to try to put out in the world
mhm,
is opportunities for that to happen.
definitely. So with this codex at where it is right now, I mean, we're looking at uh, as it stands right now, just under 3,600 for the campaign.
Yep.
Literally $1 away from that. So we are uh, just about to the first stretch goal, which ends up adding what is this? Predative plants.
Yep. Most of the Most of the creatures that are in the codex right now are desert or sand
Mhm.
based. In the setting, there is a large jungle environment as well. So I wanted to support that. That's planned for a future book, but I wanted to have some things in there. And I was like, okay, well, if you were in a jungle in a fantasy setting that has technology and magic, what are some horrible things that could be in the jungle? And well, plants that eat you, of course. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then I started doing some research into plants, and I have a different buddy that I work with. He gave me a plant idea that it has these berries that explode, and it but if you eat them or use them properly, they give you advantages. So kind of the whole risk reward thing, and thought that was an interesting way to put an adventure hook in with the challenge of the plant. It's all self-contained. It's a nice little package. I was like, well, that's a damn good idea. I won't put that in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Man-eating
Uh,
plants and stuff like that are terrifying. So yes, that.
yeah, a lot of that stuff came with the initial, okay, what's terrifying to me personally? Okay, now we've got enough of those things that are terrifying to me. What's something that would be useful, and what would be an odd twist on something useful? Like a lot of the plants, especially catering to the MCC crowd where resources are pretty scarce, they have a use besides being, big and horrible and being able to defend themselves. Because I mean, a rose bush can defend itself. It's got thorns. So these plants that could have been mutated from something else, well, they have teeth and they're sentient and they don't like things made out of meat.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a and maybe it's just my weird brain processes, but I start to follow a path and then it starts to make sense. And I'm like, this is horrible. This is going in an adventure. So that's kind of the process.
Absolutely. And as far as the art that comes with this book, because obviously, you have a monster book, art's going to be a huge piece that gets people in the door. So, for any of you who are familiar with, the kinds of games that I've talked about on here before, a couple names you might recognize that are, working on this campaign with Skeeter. You have I'm probably going to butcher his name, but he's worked with Levi before. Diogo,
Noguera.
yeah,
Yeah.
Noguera. He's in this
Diogo.
book. He's
Diogo
amazing.
has done his own games. He's a great artist. I was very happy to be able to get him to work on this, and he knocked out his stuff really fast. And one of the nice things specifically about Diogo is his ink work. He actually does. So he's got
Nice.
these 6x9 cards where he did the ink work, and I ended up getting those. So I have those, and I mean I'm like, nobody else can have these. I want them.
Mhm.
So yeah, Diogo,
Mhm.
uh, Keelan Halverson, who did the super bitchin' red cover for Crypt of the Science Wizard. I should have probably given you a picture so you could see that. He did a bunch of the black and white interior work in Crypt, and he's doing a bunch more in Cryptocodex. Um, Ed Bickford,
Mhm. For all you
uh,
robot fans out there.
yep, robots. Ed Bickford is on board, and he he actually sent me a note after doing a bunch of the interiors, and he said, I don't want to draw anything with elephants. for a while. 'Cause I've got a number of elephant hybrid. He did some dinosaurs. He did some takes on dinosaurs that are like, why does that dinosaur have an octopode head? Why he got 8 tentacles coming out his face? So yeah, there's some crazy monster stuff from there. See who else I got in there? Alla Fedorova. She did the cool aliens that look like Fantastic Planet. Very, very influenced by the big blue people from Fantastic Planet. And she just killed her art piece. I love it so much. Um, yeah, that's who I can think of right off the bat. Jonathan Bingham. Oh, he'd have been mad at me. I don't think he ever actually gets mad. He's one of the nicest people I have ever met. But he's got a bunch of art in there as well that I'm really happy I've got. So it is very much the book I wanted to do. So plugging
Absolutely.
ahead, all steam ahead.
Absolutely. Now, once this is complete, and once you've got all the work done on this, I don't know if this is something you want to share right now, but what's next for you after the Crypto Codex is done and dusted?
So Cryptocodex ends on March 16th, which is my birthday. So, lots of pledges on the 16th.
Mhm.
At the end of this year will be Crypt of the Science Wizard level 2. That will be going to Kickstarter either, I think it's probably in November. And I'm sorry, everybody, I have to do Kickstarter because it's the only way I can raise funds for the printing. And then I know how many people want initially, and I can do smaller batches. There's always a Kickstarter uh, disclaimer that you have to give sometimes. So Crypt level 2 at the end of the year, I have 2 additional resource books planning right now for the MCC Shaman and the DCC Wizard. And I also have another book for the Cleric and Healer. I'm not sure when those are going to slot in, if they are going this year or if they're going at the beginning of 2022. Not sure yet. At the end of 2022 is going to be the setting that Crypt of the Science Wizard lives on. The entire, I'll call it a planet, but that's not really what it is. And that is going to be, I'm doing them in digest sized books so I can break out the information into 3 separate books. And if I get my way, it's going to be in a slipcase just because I think that would be bitching.
Hmm.
It will probably be a financial disaster, but I don't care. I want to do it. And if you can't just do stuff sometimes in the RPG industry / hobby, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, the slipcases are awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to have that. I'm going to have some full wraparound art. It's going to be super cool.
Gotcha.
And hopefully I at least break even on it. Yeah,
Now,
it'll be fine.
now, March 16th is also a special day here in my household. It's your birthday, and it's our anniversary. So,
Sweet. Happy anniversary.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll
last year was a bummer.
yeah. We did get to go out. We had a great anniversary dinner. Last year was our first anniversary, so we got to have a good time before
Good,
everything shut
good, good,
down.
good. Yeah,
But
that,
yeah, this year we're still kind of making tentative plans for what we're doing this year, but we're still going to do something because it's our anniversary.
yeah. No, last year was my 50th birthday and my 10-year anniversary with my wife. So we were going to go away and get remarried and have this big, you know, ceremony where we get remarried and roll in my birthday. And it was going to be this great, fantastic thing. Nope. COVID shut everything down.
Mhm.
So that was a bummer. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Yeah, it was a bummer. So we're trying to think of something fun to do this year,
Mhm.
make up for it.
Absolutely. Now, something we have not talked about on the show at all, I think, because when Zach was on, we didn't really talk about it, and I don't remember talking about it with you the first time you were on. But you have your own live show that you do most every week. The
We do.
amazingly named "Goddammit Zach."
Yep, it is fantastic. That came from, I believe, a messenger thread, uh, because
Mhm.
Zach was doing something and I needed some information, and I was joking around with him, and one of the things on there was it just said, "God damn it, Zach!" And I shared that with some of the partners at Frog God Games, and that just started taking on a life of its own where everybody would say that. But where it got really weird is one year at the North Texas RPG Con, I came to the convention with shirts for everybody in Frog God Games that just it was a black shirt, white letters, and it just said "God damn it, Zach." And people loved them. I sold some of them. And then the next year, I made the red "God damn it, Zach" shirts. And there's like 200 people that have these shirts. So it's a cult. And there was even a little bit of, how you greet people. If you see someone in one of these shirts, you go, "God damn it, Zach." And then the person replies with, "God damn it, Zach." And it was crazy because we wear them on Saturdays at conventions because that's the most visible day.
Mhm.
Um, and there are a lot of guys that go to conventions named Zach,
Yep.
and they all come up to me and say, "Why do you have that shirt?" And my wife would like to buy one. So yeah, it's been amazing. I had I had a plan. I thought we were going to have physical conventions this year, so I was going to get a new shirt for 2021 that said, "God damn it, Zach, 2021, thanks for 2020." Something to just blame him.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so that's why it's called that. We are live on YouTube on Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific. Uh, Frequently, not always, because sometimes I can't get myself together. Um, but yeah, we do it. We have live shows. We've occasionally done recorded shows. We've done interviews with. We got to do an interview with Ed Greenwood, which was insane. I was like, how do I get to interview Ed Greenwood? Um, and we've had we've had a couple of really good guests on. We've got a couple of years worth of shows. So check out Goddamn It Zach on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I had Zach on, he did not know that I knew that story. So when we got to the T-shirt question, I said, "I know you have a T-shirt made in your honor," and I think I caught him by surprise.
Yeah, he always acts like he's surprised that people know that he's Zach Glazer and that Goddamn It Zach is attached to Zach Glazer's name. And I'm like, dude, by now you should know. How could you be surprised by that?
Mm-hmm.
I think he doesn't know he's as much of a celebrity as he is. Because
Definitely.
he is definitely well known, and he's a really good ambassador for role playing. He loves it very much. He is a gamer to his molecules.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, Zach is a great guy. Even when I had Alyssa on a couple weeks ago and we were talking about just the people that we knew in common, and I was like, oh yeah, the Frog God people. Immediately she was like, I love Zach. Just instantaneously was her reaction. So, Zach, since this episode is now dedicated to how much everyone loves you, just know it's not just us two. Alyssa loves you as well.
And Alyssa doesn't love anybody. She's a horrible harpy. That's going to be great because next week she's like, God damn it, Zach. So when she sees this, she's going to be like, I will cut you. It's like, yeah, you will. She lives like 2 or 3 hours from me. So she would probably drive up here and stab me.
Yeah, that. So, so when it comes to virtual conventions, you mentioned a few that have been going on. What's kind of coming up for you as far as the virtual conventions? Where can people uh, play in some of the virtual games that you have going on? What's coming up in that regard?
Well, I think the next one coming up is virtual or ethereal GaryCon. I'm making my semi-triumphant return to GaryCon. I desperately wanted to go in person this year again, but that didn't work out, obviously for safety reasons. So Thursday of GaryCon, we're doing the small publishing seminar where we get a bunch of people that we know in the industry, and they talk about um, kind of just some basic aspects of getting started in small publishing. Um, I did that seminar the first time 2 or 3 years ago at North Texas, and people really responded to it. So I think there are a lot of people that are interested in small publishing. Obviously, from the whole zine craze on Kickstarter. So many people are trying to do that. We talk about different resources that can help with that. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm running playtests for level 2 of Crypt the Science Wizard. So you don't have to just listen to us at a seminar. You can actually play in the game what it's all about. And I think 2 weeks after GaryCon, I'm doing Frog God Game Days. So I'm running 2 games during that weekend. Um, and after April, I think it's time to take a break because that will be my
Yep.
fourth virtual con already.
Hmm.
So take a break and see if we can go to North Texas RPG Con in person, or if that's going to be a virtual con.
In person, North Texas would be fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Not having not having actual conventions in person, I I feel like really hurt me over the past year. Now, I mean, we're getting even beyond that because
yeah,
my game plan for 2020 when people still were making bold projections like that was I am going to hit physical conventions this year. I can meet the people that I've done these shows with. I can meet people like you, Levi, the all the frogs, all these people who I've talked to but not actually met. I can meet these people,
right,
playing
yeah,
games with them, and then as I am introducing myself physically to these people, tell other people, hey, I had these guys on Rollin' Bones. If you haven't listened to it, you should check it out. Network, all that kind of stuff. Have Rollin'
yeah.
Bones t shirts that I give to people. None of that happened.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, I went to TotalCon last year
Hmm.
in February, and as soon as I got back home, it was like, oh yeah, this flu that people are getting is really bad, and you really need to take it seriously. And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And like 3 weeks later, I was working from home and have been for a year now.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to get one convention in last year, and did some online and did some virtual stuff. But even as much as I don't particularly care for people, I'm not an extrovert at all. I miss seeing my gamer people.
Hmm.
Like
Definitely.
I could stay away from the day job for, eternity, but gaming, that's cool. That's what I want to do.
Hmm. Yeah, so if we get to go to North Texas, that'll be my first gaming convention in a couple years.
Oh yeah.
That'll be something that I'm like probably gonna try and run games at if I can uh, get something together for that, and I'm gonna be super excited if we actually get to go to North Texas in person.
Yeah, that would be great on a bunch of levels. I mean, if it's safe enough to have a convention like that, that's awesome. Um, that's going to mean a lot of things are opened up. That's kind of the weather mark on how things are doing. So I have fingers. I looked at flights today, so I'm starting to get jumpy. I want to go. I want to
Mm-hmm.
go.
Absolutely, and I even I had it planned out for North Texas. I was like, yeah, I can stay right there, right next to the airport. Don't even need to rent a car.
Yep. Yeah. It's and it's a great con. It's like you were saying, it's a lot of people who know each other and hang out, and we get to have, a lot of the conversations that you just don't get to have. I mean, sitting around in the lobby just shooting the shit, or you know, Zach and I, one time when we were at Gamehole, we did a live Goddamn It Zach from Gamehole, which was awful, by the way. Uh, just from a production quality and the fact that we are not at all professional anyway. Um, but yeah, I mean, staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning, having these conversations when you're not even gaming, those are some of the best talks I've ever had. And I am so thankful I've gotten to be in a position where these people that I idolized when I was a kid, now I can like walk up next to them when they're sitting on a bar stool and pat them on the back and go, "Hey, how you doing?" And they talk to me. I don't get arrested for doing that.
Absolutely.
So I like that a lot.
Hmm. Gotcha. Well, as we wrap up here, here's to being able, hopefully, to see everyone in North Texas or any convention at some
Yeah.
point in 2021 in person where you guys can watch me drink 32 ounces of coffee live instead of
Nice.
via camera.
Oh yeah. No, we'll if we have North Texas, we'll get you to the midnight auction. That's where things really get insane.
That sounds like fun.
It's very eye-opening. There are things you will see during the midnight auction you will not see anywhere else on Earth. It's a good time.
Now, I will say I've been to Dragon Con after the sun goes down, so I don't know if it's similar things to that or.
I certainly hope not. I am
Okay.
hoping that this is very specific to Texas, but I think they're similar enough. I think they're similar enough.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're right here up against our time.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is, as always, just kind of turn things over to you. Obviously, we've got the Crypto Codex on Kickstarter. We have Goddamn It, Zach. Is there anything else you want to plug? Anything coming up that you want people to know about?
Well, I think our buddy Levi Combs has got a Kickstarter that's coming up here in the next day or two. I think he was just waiting for his last one to close out, and then he was going to start again. Mr. Jim Wampler has a Kickstarter that he is fulfilling right now for his zine Scientific Barbarian. Check that out because there's going to be another one happening very soon. It's going to be quarterly, so I got to get writing my article for that. I'm being lazy. Um, and yeah, come by and watch us on Goddamn It Zach Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For people who are in other time zones, you got to do the math. And yeah, check out Cryptocodex. Give it a look. Even hit the link to be notified when it gets to its last 24 hours or last 48 hours or whatever the thing is. Don't forget about me. It ends on my birthday.
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Awesome. And just so everyone knows, the plan is to have Levi on sometime in the spring, April, around there. So Levi will be back. We'll have him back on again. And I have my copy of Skullcano Island over on the painting table back there. We'll be talking about that here in a couple weeks, and I'll be doing a review of that. So that's all coming for those of you who are into Planet X games. Next week, we've got another big return scheduled. Banana Chan is coming back. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the wrap up of the Jungsha campaign. And I don't know if you know this or not, but she's working on a little project involving Ravenloft at Wizards of the Coast. So that's a big thing that we unfortunately can't really talk that much about, but we can talk about Dune, we can talk about Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. We're gonna have a ton of fun talking with Banana about all the stuff that she's working on. So we'll see you then. And of course, this Saturday I have also my Deadlands Kickstarter here, so we're gonna open that baby up. We're gonna do an unboxing, and we're going to take a look at what all Pinnacle has delivered with this new Deadlands. So that'll be this Saturday at 9 a.m. Hope you guys will join us. If not, you can catch it on YouTube afterwards. And yeah, that's what we've got coming up. So as always, guys, whether you rolled a 1 or a 20, I'm so glad that you rolled your bones with me, Ryan Howard, and I'll see you next time.